Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Grumpy Old Homo Show.
Yeah, and we are in Pride Month.
We are in Pride Month, and tonight
celebrating queers.
Queers,
all
queers.
that is queer.
So we're doing a fundraiser on the 29th of October. Currently hosted by I Love Melville .live, and there's sponsored food and drink.
Entertainment.
We've got the Avalon Quartet. We've got the Mamas.
Lilo's going to perform.
And Robert Whitehead. Fatsy City, I tell you. There was everybody everywhere.
Good evening and welcome everybody to the Gossip Invasion. I am the host that you all know and love by now. I mean, if seeing my smile doesn't brighten your day, I don't know what will. And joining me this beautiful evening is my gorgeous best friend.
Hi everybody, I'm Shannon Fisher.
And she will be accompanying me tonight as we go through the hot topics. But before we get into all the local entertainment news, don't forget that the Grumpy Old Homos are hosting a fundraiser on the 29th of October here at the Space in Melville. Tickets are 500 Rand each, and food, drinks, entertainment, everything is covered by your ticket. So don't forget to come and support and just have a really, really great night in this here Pride Month, because Pride will probably be off. So come celebrate with some old queers here. So first things first,
Ooh.
we're going to get into it. The hot topic of the night is Mr. Costa Titch.
Ooh, Mr. Costa, what did he do?
So Costa is an up and coming rapper. He is a white rapper who raps exclusively in a combination of Sotho and Zulu.
Okay.
So,
and is that his mother tongue?
I don't think it's his mother tongue, but I think it's something that he's picked up over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to rap in a foreign language as anyone is an accomplishment, but to do it in two foreign languages as a white man,
it causes some controversy.
It does cause some controversy, whatever the correct pronunciation is. Angas. But so Costa is trending on Twitter, like full on trending, because a video of him is doing the rounds where he is rapping and dancing.
Okay.
So he's actually rapping pretty well. I will give him his credit. Like, I was quite impressed when I heard it. I thought this was a black guy. Let me not even front. But no.
Is he rapping only in Vernac or
rapping
English as well?
Fully in Vernac.
Okay.
Like, I didn't hear a drop of English in the song. Maybe in the actual song, there's a sprinkling of English, but it's completely decolonized rap, which is quite ironic coming from the people of the colonizers. But anyways, but people are now questioning whether Costa is cultural appropriating or cultural appreciating. What do you think?
I don't know. I think there's a very fine line between cultural appropriation and cultural appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it just depends on the individual person, because, you know, some people may find this content that he's doing offensive.
Yeah.
And some people may find it like, okay, you know, he is actually appreciating our culture. So I think it's very individualistic. It's very subjective.
Mm-hmm.
So it really depends on who you're asking. What was he? I think I saw something about him wearing like his hair in braids. I think that might be a turning point for the controversy.
So that seems to be his like trademark look. Like him.
Okay.
Him and Jay Molly, who's another white rapper,
Mm-hmm.
but Jay Molly raps in English. They both keep their hair in twists or little single braids.
Okay.
So people are saying that no, it can't really be classified as appropriation because he grew up in Nelspruit, which is a predominantly, well, it's a mixture. It's a fairly mixed area, but he grew up around predominantly black people. So that's where he picked up the Sotho and the Zulu from, because those are both languages spoken in Mpumalanga. And that's why he speaks it so fluently, because he's been heavily influenced by African culture. And he's not doing it in a way to make a mockery of it. He's doing it in a way that actually, you know, brings awareness, and he's putting Vernac rap on the map.
But do you think he's not trying to monetize off of other people's language because of the shock factor of him as a white guy rapping in Vernac? You know, that's something unusual. It's something we don't see often. So obviously it's a very easy way to get views, to get attention. And he may possibly be using that to his advantage, taking advantage of it to get his name out there and to get money in exchange for that. So that could be also a reason why. How would you say he's appreciating the culture?
I think for him to have immersed himself in the culture and learn the language to an extent where he's able to fully rap in it. Because like a lot of white people, well, okay, let me not generalize, but people who learn secondary languages, particularly African languages, they, for the most part, they learn enough to carry conversations. But when you think about how much thought goes into like writing a full-on song in a completely different language to your own, and to do it in such a way that it's clever. It's not just you're repeating the words in simple syntax structure.
Yeah.
He's getting creative with them. He's flowing pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, you need to know the language pretty proficiently to get that level of writing.
Exactly. And for him to feel comfortable enough to do it, I think that shows that he knows his stuff. He's not just doing it for the vibes. I don't know.
I mean, but also some artists are pretty dedicated to getting their name out there, and that could just be another ploy of just dedicating themselves to learning this language to that level of proficiency to get their name out there, even if it means, you know, speaking a language that isn't true to him. I don't know. There's different sides to it. But would you say that he's part of the culture enough to say that or to speak these languages?
Okay, the whole chat is very subjective.
For sure.
Because everyone will kind of have their own interpretation of it. I come from a colored family who speaks Zulu. So for us, that's the norm. You know, all my cousins go and braid their hair. They're all fluent in the language. They attend a lot of the cultural events and stuff in Swaziland. So even in KZN, we have imbizos, we slaughter animals, we do certain things that are part of the Zulu culture. Forgive me for not naming them properly. It's been a minute, but for the most part, like my family very heavily partake in the Zulu culture. So for me, I'm like, okay, no, we're not cultural appropriating because this is what my family grew up in. And I think it's the same for him. He grew up in primarily Black environments and he grew up speaking the languages. So that's kind of become his culture. Because, you know, all of us, our culture is dictated by what we grow up around.
For sure.
We take on a lot of what is surrounding us. And for him, that just happened to be Zulu and Sotho. And growing up, obviously, around primarily Black people, you listen to more hip-hop. For the most part, a lot of Black men, that's their preferred choice in music. So I think with him, it's appreciation.
Okay.
Personally.
I think maybe with the topic of languages, like in an isolated situation, it could be seen as perhaps appreciation, but then again, it's very subjective. But I think with the hairstyle, because obviously braiding your hair is a protective hairstyle that is done in Black culture. It's very, very popular, and once it, like, as a white person doing braids, that's a very, problematic thing. So
that I was like,
that could change the tides, make it cultural appropriation. Because I mean, as a white guy, there's no reason for you to be braiding your hair because it doesn't serve any protective purposes other than for the clout.
Yeah, that's definitely an aesthetic choice. It's
exactly.
There's no reasoning, as you're saying, there's no actual reason for him as a white man to be braiding his hair.
Yeah, and I mean, even with colored people, it's still because colored people aren't Black, but they aren't white. So there's also like some controversy about whether they are when they're braiding their hair or doing these protective hairstyles, if it's appropriate, if it's cultural appropriation, or if it's part of their culture. And also, it being a protective hairstyle, obviously it's not a protective hairstyle for white people because different hair textures, different hair porosities, etc. But with colored people, there's no like one size fits all. Your hair could be very silky, it could be very straight, or it could be very curly and very, very textured, and that could still benefit as a protective hairstyle. But because they're not Black, it's like that could still be considered cultural appropriation. So it's very on the fence with colored people.
So now for a whole
So for
colonizer
exactly
to be coming,
for a whole colonizer to go for that, I think that was a poor choice for him, especially in this context. I don't know, it doesn't sit right with me. And I wouldn't like, it's not like he can be ignorant about a topic like that, especially with social media, with globalization. Everybody knows about these topics. So that was
Exactly.
definitely a choice that he never addressed.
So producer Kirsty says, I genuinely think Costa is appreciative of the cultures.
Okay.
So then it also, speaking about the hair, it also brings into question is he braiding his hair because, again, that's what he's trying to fully appreciate the culture, or is he doing it for clout?
But then also, you know, has he ever like spoken about it and said, you know, this is what I'm doing, these are my intentions? Because obviously we can't guess people's intentions.
Yeah.
And I think that plays a lot into it.
And then also, speaking of intentions, like, even if he has spoken about it and said one thing, he could potentially be meaning the other thing. Like, he could be saying that, oh no, I'm doing it to appreciate culture, but in the back of his mind, he's actually doing it just for the clout. And he's only doing it for the fame.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it is a gimmick. A white man speaking in vernac is a gimmick.
Yeah.
It's
and it does have shock value, you know, if somebody who is white is speaking in vernac, that would catch my ear for sure. I'd be like, oh, let me see this.
Yeah, because like I saw the video and I was like, okay, wait, this is a black guy rapping. The white guy is just in there for the vibes.
Yeah.
And then so I read through the comments on Twitter and they're like, no, it's his song. It's called Ispitor. I'm going to butcher that pronunciation. I'm gonna say it like Alani. It's called Ispitori.
Ispitori. How do you spell that?
I-S, small I-N-S, and then capital P-I-T-O-R-I.
Okay.
So something to do with Pretoria, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe that's just me being ignorant.
I also got Pretoria vibes.
Exactly. So apparently the whole of Mzansi is like, what is going on? But people are coming to his defense and saying, no, he grew up in Nelspruit.
Yeah.
He's immersed himself in the culture. This is just part of it.
Growing up in Nelspruit doesn't necessarily mean that you were submerged in the culture. Some people isolate themselves a lot from the culture. I mean, in South Africa, you know, we're the Rainbow Nation. We have so many cultures.
Oh.
You okay?
No. Okay, so I made a mistake. So the song is called Yebo Malume. And so Ispitori is it's like a tsotsitaal. So it's not a language in itself, but it's derived from different languages.
Okay.
So this one in particular is derived from Setswana. So he's fluent in quite a few languages. They say namely though isiZulu and Setswana. So
this is Costa.
This is Costa himself.
Did he grow up with the language?
In Nelspruit, yeah.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. He probably went to a predominantly black school. That's obviously where he picked up the language as well. Because for the most part, you think that a white person in Nelspruit would speak Afrikaans. That's even people that I know. Because from Swaziland, a lot of people go through to Nelspruit because it's the closest big city to the country. So when I was in school there, all the white people, they would go there for the weekends and stuff. And that's still a fave of theirs. And it's a very, very Afrikaans area. So I think that's why also the shock value. But it shows the dedication to learning the language, to doing it properly. So
I mean, at the end of the day, at least he's not butchering the language.
Like some of us.
Like some of us. Exactly. And he's like giving it the time and effort to actually learn to pronounce these words correctly.
Yeah.
For the most part, I presume. And not just trying to like disrespect the language by not even putting in the effort to learn it properly, which is one thing I can commend him on.
And some people are saying that it's only cultural appreciation if the music is good. Yeah. And it's cultural appropriation if the music is bad.
And what do you say? Do you think the music is good or bad?
I enjoyed it. But then again, I'm no expert on vernac languages and vernac music. I don't understand a lot of what is being said. So again, I don't know. But for the most part, a lot of people on Twitter were like, no. A lot of black people on Twitter were like, no. I enjoy this. Yeah. I think that it's cultural appreciation. But then you also have to factor in the fact that he's white.
Yeah.
So he will get certain advantages over black musicians who are doing the same thing as him.
Exactly, but are not white or of color.
Exactly. So what other people are also doing is comparing him to Vocalistic, who is also a young rapper, who also raps in a similar dialect. And they're saying, oh no, you're ripping off his style. But people are like, why is it automatically assumed that you're ripping it off? Why can two people not coexist and do the same thing? Why must it always be a competition between them?
Yeah.
And then others are saying that Costa is the product of he's the love child of Billie Eilish and Vocalistic
Oh, like in terms of his voice.
in terms of the whole package.
Oh.
Because he dresses like Billie Eilish, and when you
Okay.
hear him speak,
Ooh.
when you hear him speak or rap, it sounds like Vocalistic.
Yeah.
So they're saying wagwan here.
Yeah.
The
It's
one
not
plus one.
aligning.
Yeah, brands are
1 +
not
1
aligning.
equals
It's not
not
equaling
that.
2, it's equaling 4, 5, 6. But he's doing his thing.
Mm.
So I'm very curious to see what people are going to say about him, whether his career is actually going to be doing the things. Because like if you look at like J Molly, he seems to have kind of like plateaued.
Okay.
Like I remember he was big when we were in high school.
Yeah, those days.
And funny enough, he's managed by one of my cousins.
Oh, okay.
I've never met Homeboy, but I my cousins know him very well. He's my cousin. He's my one cousin's matric dance date.
Mhm.
So he spends a lot of time in Swaziland with a lot of my family, whatever. But personally, I don't really get the hype.
Okay, have you listened to his stuff?
I've tried. It
And
hasn't
his
really-
newest stuff? Okay.
It's not for me. I just I think is cultural appropriation.
Oh, okay.
Personally, I do think that J Molly is a cultural
Why?
appropriator.
What is different between Costa and J Molly?
J Molly doesn't seem to have respect for Black culture.
Okay.
He's adopted an entire Black aesthetic,
Hmm.
but like maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But I've never heard him speak in Vernac. I've never heard him shout out Black creatives that he isn't collabing
Has
with.
Costa done that?
Yeah, Costa
Okay.
seems to be doing that. But then again, maybe I'm wrong. So
For sure.
sound off in the comments. We'll see what's happening on Twitter. If maybe I am wrong, maybe Costa and J Molly are both paying their dues and their respect to the cultures that they should be. Or maybe I'm right and they're both just profiting off of a Black aesthetic. Like
Which is, yeah, it's very probable, especially now in the world, Black
Mhm.
has suddenly become, well, not suddenly, Black has become beautiful. Well, it's always been beautiful, but it's been a trend to be
yes,
of color, to have tan skin, to have curly hair,
to
or
take
all
on
these
the
Black
aesthetic without
features
the
to be thick,
struggles.
exactly, without the struggles. And a lot of white people are trying to, fit that aesthetic. That
Blackfishing.
exactly, and some people, like celebrities, are doing it,
Mhm.
and they're proud of it, and it's like, this is something that's not a joke. If you look like this,
Khloe Kardashian. Khloe Kardashian cosplays as Beyonce for fun. But
for sure.
see-
And also, who is it? That makeup artist from YouTube.
there's been a few.
There's been there's one I'm thinking. I don't know if is it Nikita Dragon.
Nikita Dragon.
And did you see that
yes.
she made a tweet about like,
Um,
oh, who am I gonna
Which race am I gonna be
exactly
today?
making a joke out of like this whole blackfishing thing when it's a really serious thing. If you look like that like a couple years ago, then you would be discriminated against, but you can just use this as a costume almost and not have to, go through the struggles
Yeah.
that people of color have to go through on a daily basis.
You can get home and wash it off and be back to your light-skinned self.
Exactly.
But for Black people, obviously you cannot wash your complexion off and you can't wash the discrimination off. And
Exactly.
it's really unfair and it's really disgusting, quite frankly, that a lot of non-Black people are doing this for the clouds.
Yeah. Yeah. Just because it's trendy, but it's like
They're adopting Black culture without giving credit to Black creatives,
just for the
and
clout.
doing more for the Black community. And it's like, you're profiting of what I'm doing, but you're not paying your respect.
Yeah.
Something it's not adding up here.
For sure.
But anywho's off from Blackfishers because they don't deserve any more of
About
our
time.
they don't deserve any of our mental space, They can't be living in our minds unbothered. I mean, what?
Rent-free.
Rent-free, yes, that's the one. So we're going to speak about someone who's doing pretty well.
Very, very popular in South Africa. I'm
Very.
sure you've seen his little comedy skits.
If you don't know Mr. Lasizwe Dambuza, you must not have internet. You must not be on social media.
You
Which
must not be on
respectable,
those WhatsApp
but-
groups where all of your colored or all of your aunties and moms are forwarding these videos on those
Yeah.
group chats, Facebook.
They love Lasizwe over on Facebook.
Dude.
But not every mother seems to love Lasizwe.
Yeah.
So he posted a video on on Facebook. No, he posted on Instagram and on Twitter. Facebook isn't his demographic. They just seem to love him there. But he posted a video on Instagram and Twitter calling out parents who are saying that he is a bad example to their kids. Apparently, this isn't the first time that this has happened, but over the weekend, I think someone's mother decided to go into his DMs and tell him that he needs to change his life because it's bad for her son or her child to look up to.
Yeah, as a bad role model.
Yeah, and let's see this, like, first things first, it is not my job to raise your children.
Not at all.
It is not my job to instill morals and values in them. It is not my place. I never forced anyone to follow me.
Mm-hmm.
They chose to do that of their own free will. And if you have an issue with what your child is watching, take it up with the child, not with me.
Yep. It's your responsibility to raise your child with morals, and what they are exposed to is not their fault. Because there's so many celebrities out there that are doing so many crazy things, and if you say, oh, you're not allowed to do this because my children possibly might see it, that's just a bad example of parenting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, your child should be able to, live a life that is, morally good,
Mm-hmm.
without having to worry about being exposed to potentially bad things. And I mean, it seems like they're referencing a bit of homophobia here.
I think that that's where it stems from.
For sure.
Genuinely, like,
being an openly queer Black person in South Africa and being proud about it is apparently something they don't want their kids
children
exposed
see.
to.
And it's weird. Like, I can vaguely understand how parents might not necessarily want their kids to be exposed to that from a necessarily young age. Because
I don't know.
I think that it's wanting, but then again, hold on, before I get dragged. So I can
Yes.
understand why parents would not want their kids to be exposed to things like that. But if you're not gonna expose them to queer spaces, not expose them to overly heterosexual spaces
Exactly.
either.
And like, from a young age, you're constantly force-fed heterosexuality. That's the default, being cisgender. But as soon as it's anything that doesn't conform to that, as soon as it's anything queer or anything not cisgender, then it's suddenly, oh, you're force-feeding me this.
Exactly.
Oh, why are you shoving it in our face? But it's like, when defaultly cisgender characters are predominantly on all your media, all your TV programs and stuff, then it's not a problem. So I feel like sexuality doesn't have to be like an overtly sexual thing.
Yeah,
And like, I understand maybe if he was being overtly sexual,
which he's not.
which he isn't, then maybe I'd see it, but he's just living his life,
Mm-hmm.
being true to himself.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a great role model for, especially being like South African,
Yeah.
a great role model, and like representing people who are queer, so people who are growing up can see, wow, there's actually more of us and we can actually make it in life without feeling any internalized homophobia. Exactly. I don't feel like it's a bad thing that Lesizwe is being himself, and I don't think it's anybody's responsibility to live accordingly to what they think is right or wrong.
So I think that he's actually being a good role model.
I think so too.
I can understand that not a lot of South Africans, because South Africa is a very conservative country,
That is fair.
so him basically essentially doing drag is very taboo in a lot of communities, not just the Black community. So that is, I think that's more where the issue is coming from. But at the end of the day, there's so many kids who want to explore, because gender is no longer binary. I don't think it ever should have been.
It never has been binary, but
Yeah.
society has made it binary. It's only you can be a boy or a girl, and that's not
That's not
how it
case.
works.
At the end of the day, we're all souls in a vessel, and you should do with your vessel what you see fit.
Exactly.
But anyways, Lesizwe is just doing what is best for him. He's doing what makes him happy, and he's doing what makes him money.
Exactly.
I think that kids should be looking up to him and be like, okay, this person is doing so well purely by being authentic
Exactly.
and being themselves. He's succeeding in a world where so many people are trying to force him to be anything other than himself.
Mhm.
And what can I take from that as an individual? What can I see Lesizwe doing that I can implement in my own life to help me get to where I want to be.
Yeah. And it's something you can relate to as any queer person living in this country.
Exactly. I think as anyone in general, because there's so many rules and regulations and so much discomfort that we're faced with on a daily basis. And we're all kind of taught that we need to just be one thing and just be, safe and just, keep your head down, go to school, get a good job, work the rest of your life away. And we're taught that we can't be our authentic selves, that we shouldn't be our authentic selves because that will get us
nowhere.
Yeah.
People will judge you for it wherever you go. So you have to be straight passing and just hope that it gets you by.
Yeah, and he's refusing to stand by that. He's refusing to take that and internalize it and allow himself to be shaped and molded into something that he isn't. And I respect him
it's not
so
easy.
much for that.
It's not easy when the cards are stacked against you, when everybody has
preying on your downfall.
Exactly, just because of your sexuality.
Yeah.
And like my thing is, as long as somebody is not infringing on your rights and you're not infringing on theirs, they should be allowed to do whatever they want to do. As soon as like they're infringing on your rights, like I completely understand, but it should be none of your business what other people do with their lives and how they choose to live their lives. Or you don't need to understand it. All you need to do is respect it and move on.
And with that, we are cutting to ad real quick.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Grumpy Old Homo Show.
Yeah, and we are in Pride Month.
We are in Pride Month, and tonight
celebrating queers.
Queers,
all
queers.
that is queer.
So we're doing a fundraiser on the 29th of October. Currently hosted by I Love Melville.live, and there's sponsored food and drink.
Entertainment.
We've got the Avalon Quartet. We've got the Mamas.
Lilo's going to perform.
And Robert Whitehead. Batsy City, I tell you. There was everybody everywhere.
It is 6:30. Well, 31 past 6 if you're being Pacific. And you just saw the ad for the Grumpy Old Homos and their fundraiser, so please don't forget to purchase your tickets. They are 500 Rand each. The fundraiser is on the 29th of October. It is a Pride party. We're in Pride Month. So come through and support. Food, drink, entertainment is all covered by your ticket, and tickets are limited, so don't forget to pull up and support.
Support the gays.
Yeah, support all of them, especially Lasizwe, because he's been through it.
Yeah, for sure.
We were just talking about how parents are saying that he needs to change his life to make their kids more comfortable or whatever it is. And I find that really unfair.
Very unfair.
It's sexual discrimination. Not sexual discrimination, but it's discrimination.
Yeah.
And it's okay, yes, it's nice to see parents are like concerned for their kids, but this isn't something that needs concern.
For sure. And it's like, if you aren't, like, I understand people aren't comfortable with that. If you aren't comfortable with your children viewing his content, then that is something that is a conversation that you need to have with your child. You can't expect somebody to change their lifestyle just for you, because there are so many people who have so many different opinions on how people should live their lives. There's no one way to live your life that will please everyone. It's very unfair to put on him.
I think that he's already proven that he is staying strong in who he is. And I commend him for it, because not only is he being truthful to himself and living his life to the way he sees fit, but he's doing it without parental guidance. Both of his parents passed away. His dad this past month, I believe, his dad passed away, I think last month or the month before, and that was his last surviving parent.
Yeah.
So for him to be standing strong and making his parents proud and continuing their legacy to an extent, I think deserves more praise than whatever nonsense people are projecting onto him. Because you're not going to come. I think that they're all projecting their own insecurities and their own issues onto him.
Mhm.
He's just a figure that they are trying to place all of their own negative emotions on, and they
Yeah.
need to seek help within themselves and not try and ruin this man's life.
Imagine somebody else living a whole ass life who doesn't even know you and it bothers you. It lives in your head rent free.
Exactly. But that just shows he has power.
Exactly. He's
He
got
has
power over your mind.
influence.
Like shame on you for letting him
Bro.
be in your head rent free.
And he's just minding his business and making his money.
Exactly.
So big ups to Lassie, where we love to see what you're doing. I think even if you don't necessarily agree with him as a person or necessarily like his content, I still believe that he deserves his recognition. He deserves
Sure,
his
he
flowers.
worked hard for it.
He works very hard. He's doing very well. We have very little queer entertainers who are up on the level that he is at his age.
Exactly. And he's quite young, hey?
He's like what, 22?
22, and I would believe that.
Yeah, I think he turned 22 this year.
Okay.
And he was the first African on MTV with his own reality show.
Wow.
He got deals from Samsung Game. He's just doing the most.
Yeah.
And shout out to him.
Shout out to him.
Respect. I admire his work ethic.
We appreciate the grind.
But another from one South African legend. Well, he will be a legend to. Yeah, it's a very, very sad story. Mr. Oscar Pistorius.
Haven't heard his name in a hot minute.
Bro,
In a
when
hot
last?
minute.
So, Mr. Pistorius, the former Paralympian turned shooter, turned murderer. He's back in the news because he wants the forgiveness of Reeva Steenkamp's parents.
Parents
Yeah,
and family.
whole family.
Yeah.
So-
That's hectic. That's
It
hectic
is.
to expect and to ask. But did he ask them directly?
He hasn't asked them directly. He asked them
Or did he put
through.
it in the news?
He spoke to a friend of his and he asked this friend to go public with information, which
Mhm.
kind of seems very attention seeking.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I can kind of understand where he's coming from.
Is it a ploy to get remorse from the country to kind of save his reputation?
He can never
You
save
think
his
so?
reputation.
Yeah, but
I
like
think it's done and dusted.
for sure, especially after such a traumatic
Horrific, yeah.
incident, for sure.
I don't ever think that he'll never be able to run professionally again. He'll never get endorsements again. He'll be broke for the rest of his life because I don't know what happened to his funds. I think that his funds were frozen or they were given to the family. I'm not really sure because he was quite wealthy at some point.
Is he not anymore?
He's been in prison. He's been in jail.
Not for long enough.
He was, yeah, I think that I don't know, because he was sentenced in 2015, you said.
20. I
He
don't
was
know.
under house arrest for a minute.
Yes.
And then,
No, he was arrested, and then he got released under house arrest.
yeah.
But then, because they thought that was too lenient, then he got double the sentence.
Yes.
And I think he's in prison now for
13?
13 years?
Yeah, because he was initially given
was in-
6 years.
Yes.
And then they were like, no, this sentence is too... Because he was charged with culpable homicide.
Yes, and then they thought that wasn't
Enough.
that wasn't
Because there was public
justice.
outcry, yeah.
Exactly. And then now he's been tried for murder, which the minimum sentence is 15 years, I believe.
Yeah.
So what he served plus what he's going to serve should amount to 15 years. I think he's eligible for parole in 2023, which we'll see about, but apparently he doesn't even
Mm-mm.
want parole.
Oscar said that he would rather stay in prison for his full sentence than be released on parole. I've never heard that before in my life.
Okay, so does he seem remorseful, or is he just trying to make up for his actions?
I'm actually not. I think that he is remorseful. I think that so it's a very difficult situation, obviously.
Yeah.
He definitely loved Reeva. They had a very the thing is, yeah, you
Apparently.
can't. Apparently, he loved Reeva, and he says that he the story that he gave everybody when he was arrested was that he thought that she was in bed and he thought that there was an intruder in the house. That's why he ended up shooting. But then everyone was like, okay, why would the intruder go to the bathroom?
Exactly.
Why would you not physically feel for your girlfriend and make
Before
sure that
leaving
she's
the bed,
safe
yeah.
and immediately reaching for your gun?
Yeah. And also, I think the window, they showed a little a sketch of what the bathroom looked like, and the window was way too small for any intruder to have come in through there. So it still
Exactly.
doesn't support his whole I wasn't sure
Exactly.
if it was a robber.
So what his friend has told the son is that he wants the family to forgive him for murdering their daughter, and he is now a changed man.
Okay. I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like to ask the family for forgiveness after such a traumatic event is
Mhm.
very unfair. I think, it was something that they had to deal with that was huge. It was taxing emotionally, and to kind of put that pressure on them for them to forgive him, I think there's a bit of selfishness there, because they have to, if they do decide to forgive him, they have to do it in their own time.
Mm.
And I know that if I were to do something that made me feel guilty, forgiveness would make me feel better, because I would feel, oh, okay, maybe I could move on.
Mm.
I wouldn't have to feel as bad. And maybe some people don't think he deserves to be rid of that guilt or remorse he feels for the actions that he's done.
But my thing is that if he was truly not changed, he wouldn't care about what her parents were going through. He wouldn't be worried about their forgiveness if he had no remorse.
That's true.
I think that guilt shows that you care. If you don't feel guilt for something, then obviously you have no stress about what you did. You have no remorse for what you did.
But also in such a public situation, it could be more than just guilt because of what you've done. With the whole of South Africa coming at you in such a public court trial,
Yeah.
you, like, anybody, even whether he was guilty or not, anybody would feel like utter crap in that situation. So it could be also something for him to do for his conscience, whether he's guilty or not, which is like, let the family heal without kind of trying to get your soul to heal. Whether should he feel guilty for his actions forever? We don't know.
I don't know. It's a very tense situation, because also Reva's parents hold their faith very strongly.
Mm.
So in the Christian faith, correct me if I'm wrong, forgiveness, they say that holding on to guilt eats at your soul. It eats at your spirit. It doesn't benefit you in any way. And that is true. I genuinely believe that there's no point in holding on to what people have done to you in the past. Yes, it hurts, but by you holding on to the hatred that you feel for someone else, you're the only one who's suffering.
That's very true.
No one else will ever feel your hatred. Unless you go out of your way every day and send them like a text at like the same time every day for the next 5-10 years. I hate you. I hate. Some guy did that to his girlfriend on Twitter.
Really?
He set an alarm.
The salt.
He set an alarm, and every single day or every week at the exact same time, he sent a text saying, "I hate you."
Shame for him though, for her to be on his mind
rent free
consistently. That's a you problem. It's no longer a you and I problem.
It's like, you need to heal, beloved.
Yeah,
heal with the red emoji, with the red heart emoji. That's what you need to be
That's
doing.
the energy you need to get. But also with the family, it's like they should be able to heal in their own time if they are able to, because it's, as much as it's easy to say, forgive and forget, it's very difficult, especially with a loved one so close to you.
Yeah. So I don't know. Because he's not doing it to get out of parole, because he really isn't. Apparently, he isn't interested in getting parole. He's willing to stay his full sentence because he knows that there's going to be major backlash when he gets out of prison.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'd rather not be dealing with that. Let me just sit. Let me serve my sentence and be done with it.
And apparently, he's heading a Bible study group in his correctional facility. Yeah.
And I think that's also part of why he wants forgiveness.
But also on the other side, it could also be a ploy to try to, like this whole remorseful, I'm rehabilitated, a kind of like ploy where a couple of years down the line, when he is eligible for parole, even though he says he's not interested in it,
Mhm.
it would all work in his favor as somebody who's very regretful of his actions. And that could also possibly, not be genuine, just for him to get out of prison early.
You'd have to be a master manipulator to be
Some
able
of these
to
people
lead
are.
to
They
lead a whole
really
church,
are.
a Bible study group, and not be disingenuous. You have to be a master manipulator.
But it's possible.
It is.
You can't
Can't put it past
discredit
anybody.
that. Yeah, exactly.
And on to another sad story. Proverb,
The guy
rapper,
from Idols.
the guy from Idols. If
Shit.
you're too young to know his rap career, which I quite frankly am, I've never heard a Proverb song. No, wait, I'm lying. He released one with Idols. That's the only reason
Yeah,
I
I
know
think
about it.
that was the one I heard. I didn't even know he was a rapper, but apparently he's very good. People tell
Apparently
me he's
so.
really, really good.
He was one of South Africa's like heavyweight rappers at some point in his career.
Okay.
He was like up there with the goats, and now he's a radio host. He's a radio host. He's a TV personality,
Yeah.
and he's a businessman. So respect to him.
Yeah.
So he released a memoir
Mm-hmm.
this past weekend, called "The Book of Proverb."
Ooh, the Book of Proverb. What
Which is
a
a-
good name.
It's a very fun
Yeah.
play on words because, like, the Book of Proverbs in the Bible, the Book of Proverb, the rapper.
Mhm.
And he went into like a lot of detail about his life and specifically his divorce.
Okay.
So if you didn't know, Proverb was married for like 10 years.
Oh wow.
And Kifilwe Mabote's man, Edwin Sadi, who's been in the news for the past 2 weeks with the whole Hawk situation, he broke up their marriage.
Okay.
He went into these people's marriage and he cheated with her, and that cost them their marriage.
I mean, don't say he did it. It would have been a two-sided thing.
But by the sounds of it, that was the catalyst.
But I mean, by saying that he broke up their marriage, it's kind of like you're taking away responsibility from the wife herself. And if she
True.
cheated, that's very much her responsibility in the
Okay.
marriage as well.
Very true. Okay, so he was part of the reason.
Yeah.
Let's say that. He was part of the reason that Proverb got a divorce. And they went to counseling. He revealed in the book they went to marriage counseling because he wanted to save that marriage,
Yes.
which shows that he was fully invested in it. Because that's the mother of his kids.
Yeah, he must have really loved her to actually
10
be willing
years.
to work that out and to try to move forward.
Exactly. So they went through the whole situation. They went through the counseling. They went through everything. And it wasn't enough to save their marriage. So apparently on the last day of counseling, when it was decided that they were getting a divorce, Proverb went and he went to 3 different pharmacies. He bought a box of the strongest painkillers he could find from each pharmacy, and he swallowed them with a
Wine.
with a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
He downed all the pills with a bottle of wine after locking himself outside. Trigger warning: to try and commit suicide. So nobody knew this.
Yeah, and luckily didn't his brother found him
Yes.
luckily just in time and rushed him to the hospital.
Exactly.
And that's why he's still with us today. But that's such an intense
yeah.
thing to go through, and to go through it, alone, that must have been so difficult.
But the thing is, what he revealed in the book was that everybody was in the house. He hugged his wife and said goodbye to her and went upstairs onto their balcony, locked the sliding door, whatever it was, and tried to OD.
So did they know that he was going to
Mm-mm.
commit? Oh,
They had no idea, but fortunately, they found him in time and they took him to hospital. So I think that's like that's a huge thing to attempt suicide.
exactly. Like thinking about it is already a hectic
red
thing. But to
flag,
go
yeah.
for you to be in a position where you go as far
As
to think about
actually
it and then
attempting.
actually trying to do it is like he must have been in a really difficult position, a really troubling time.
Yeah, so he's come out with a story, and ever since he got divorced, he's been a very big advocate for mental health. He's spoken out about resources, going to therapy, depression, anxiety. He's spoken out about everything regarding mental health because he doesn't want it to be stigmatized as much
Yeah.
as it is in the Black community. Because to hear a Black man who was also a rapper speaking out about mental illness, that's not something that we know
It's
as South
unheard
Africans.
of for sure.
So he's put a lot of effort into making sure that people have access to the kind of resources that he has available. And he spoke out about it in the book, along with a whole lot of other stuff. But I think that because of how big he is, that's a really big step to take.
Yeah, to be public about it, about his struggles. And I
Mhm.
think that's a very important conversation that we need to have in South Africa. There's so much stigma around mental illness, especially as a man. It's like, oh, just don't be weak, just get over it.
Exactly.
To even speak about your emotions or to cry as a man is like,
That's like a huge no-no.
that's a very emasculating thing.
So for him to be brave enough to actually publicly say, I attempted suicide and I survived, it's very admirable.
Very admirable.
Proverb has always been like a really good person to look up to because he's never been in major drama besides his divorce.
Yeah.
He minds his business, he makes his money, he's a present father. He's a good guy. There's no reason to hate Proverb, as far as I know. Again, maybe I'm too young because I'm a 2000s. We didn't grow up on Proverb except for on Idols. So maybe he's done some dodgy things, but I think just that takes a lot of strength.
That does. And to speak up about it, I hope that it's a conversation that we can continue to have so that
Mhm.
people, young and old, can understand that, mental illness doesn't make you any less of a person. It doesn't make
Yeah.
you weak or anything. And like it's more common than people might think.
Yeah.
But it is so stigmatized and people suppress it, that it's kind of like they're ashamed of how they are. It's a disability,
Yeah.
and it shouldn't be treated as anything less than.
And he goes on to say that with whatever you're doing in life, always focus on the positive. He says that depression is an ongoing struggle, it's a daily struggle.
Mm.
And the way he's helped himself get through it is by only focusing on the good things in his life and never paying attention to the negatives. And I think that's something that everybody should try and implement in their lives
Yeah,
in
it's a
some
great
way, shape, or
message.
form. And shout out to Proverb again for being so open with his struggles and being a voice for so many people.
Mhm.
And thank you to Shannon for joining us tonight and lending her voice. And we will see you guys tomorrow at 6 p.m. on I Love Melville Live, Facebook and Twitter, and the website. Good night and God bless.
Looking forward to seeing you soon.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome
Hey.
to the Grumpy Old Homo Show.
Yeah, and we are in Pride Month.
We are in Pride Month, and tonight
celebrating
we
queers.
Queers,
And all that
queers.
is queer.
So we're doing a fundraiser on the 29th of October. Currently hosted by I Love Melville Live, and there's sponsored food and drink.
Entertainment.
We've got the Avalon Quartet. We've got the Mamas.
Lilo's going to perform.
And Robert Whitehead. That's his city, I tell you. There was everybody everywhere.